Hey guys, and welcome to my first review video. For the last 2 weeks I've had my hands on the HTC Vive, and I have to say it's been really good fun. So for those of you that don't know, the Vive is a virtual reality headset developed by HTC and Valve, the guys responsible for Steam. The device features 2 screens built into the headset with a resolution of 1080 by 1200 and a 90Hz refresh rate for each eye. It uses more than 70 sensors, including gyroscopes and accelerometers. It also uses 2 laser base stations which help it track the user's movements with sub-millimeter precision. The headset also has a built-in front-facing camera to identify moving or static objects in the room, which is used to chaperone the user, displaying a feed from the camera to the user to keep them from making a fool of themselves and walking into a wall. So, first up, a disclaimer. The aim of this review is to give you guys, the gamers, a gamer's perspective on this technology, so you guys can make an informed decision on whether you wish to invest in the tech, or maybe wait a while until the tech progresses and then invest in it. Or you might even decide not to bother at all. Now that that's out of the way, on with the review. When I first heard about the Vive and the Oculus, I was pretty skeptical. I thought, it's probably just going to be one of those gimmicky pieces of tech that is cool in concept, but in reality it will probably be laggy, buggy, and probably won't track movement that well. But as you're about to hear, I was pleasantly surprised. When I first got the Vive, I went through a pretty intuitive setup process. I defined whether I had standing space, or if the room had space enough to move around. Turns out I have just about enough space for the smallest play area after standing. I think it's 2 meters by 1.6 meters or something like that. Now, when I set this up, I was like, how the hell am I not going to walk into a wall or put the controller through my monitor or something equally stupid? The answer is pretty cool. The Vive interface created this wire mesh wall in VR. It only appears when you get close to it, so you know when you're approaching a physical barrier. The next thing that blew me away was how easy it was to pick up the controllers without lifting the Vive on my head, because you can't see what you're looking at with this thing on your head. They rendered perfectly in the VR environment, and it just felt natural to reach out and find them exactly where I perceived they would be in VR. Onto the game you're seeing now. First game I fired up, Space Pirate Trainer. Although the title is a little misleading, this game was a pretty cool way of getting to grips with the Vive. Very simple game. As you can see, you just stand on the spot and shoot at drones while using a shield in the other hand to defend yourself against incoming attacks. The first thing I realised very quickly was how accurate and lag-free it was. Being able to aim down the sight on the pistol and pick the drones off felt just as simple and accurate as shooting in real life. No adjustment to hand-eye coordination necessary. Next I tried Audioshield, a game where you stand on the spot, you're given 2 different coloured shields and you have to use them to smash these incoming coloured spheres with the corresponding shield, all to the beat of music that you selected. Simple, great fun. The first game I tried that actually required more than just standing space was Final Approach. This was awesome fun. It felt like I was a kid again. Playing with micro machines, planes, helicopters, guiding them in for landing, airlifting things with choppers and dropping them off. The interaction with these micro machines just felt so real. It just felt like you could just reach out, touch them, pick them up. It was very cool.
Now that you have the generator situated, maybe you can hop down there and turn it on. It has a 4-digit code, but no one ever remembers what it is. I'm sure you'll get it.
Next up was Raw Data, another wave-based shooter like Space Pirate Trainer, except this time you have freedom to move around and are fighting killer robots and drones. Your weapon choices are a katana or a pistol. I found the mechanics of using the pistol in this game were fantastic. You actually have to grab the clips and load them into your gun when you run out of ammo. Made for some interesting, hairy moments.
Brace yourself! Shit! Don't forget to protect your data core. It's all we got.
After that, I decided to check out Hover Jumpers, another shooter, but this time it's against players. Like Raw Data, this title has got some great gun mechanics, having to not only load the shells and bullets into the guns, but if the gun uses a clip, you have to load the clip with the bullets too. As you can imagine, this leads to some pretty hairy moments. You roam around the map in this hovering platform made of junk that you customise by placing pieces of junk into the user's shield. The rest is fairly simple. It's essentially just a deathmatch. Once I got the VR titles out of the way, I decided it was time to check out some of the games I play regularly, but with the Vive. First up, I checked out Elite Dangerous. This was the first game that actually made my head spin a little bit for about the first 5 minutes. I was on a planet's surface in my Asp Explorer, and as I took off, I rolled the ship side to side. My brain was telling me, holy shit, that way is down and you're on your side. Why can't you feel the pull of gravity? It was pretty trippy. The other thing that blew me away was the sense of scale. You just don't realise how truly massive these ships are. The cockpits just feel absolutely huge. And when you get out on the planet's surface and drive around in your SRV, even that little thing feels huge. Unfortunately though, it wasn't all great. From the very start of my experience with the Vive, I felt that the 1080 resolution seemed quite pixelated. Probably due to the magnification of the lenses. In Elite Dangerous, it was a lot more apparent. Trying to spot ships or trying to make out what number a docking pad was from a distance was almost impossible due to the pixelation. With the pixelation aside, the immersion in combat was pretty intense and really good fun.
Flight assist off. Flight assist on. Flight assist off. Flight assist on. Target dropped. Under attack. Target destroyed.
Next I checked out Project Cars. Wow, there really is nothing like being in the seat of a McLaren P1 and being able to look around and see what the car is actually like on the inside. As for the driving experience, it was a pretty awesome sensation that felt very real, especially when driving open cockpit cars. One of the big reasons that I felt so immersed in this game was because I've got wheel and pedals. I think if you were just playing on a pad it probably wouldn't feel as good, but yeah, with wheel and pedals set up properly, it beats Track IR hands down. Although I found for some reason the lighting in the game was not right. Everything seemed to be overexposed and slightly washed out. However, when switching to the external view it seemed fine. So I'm not convinced it was the Vive that was causing this, more likely Project Cars. Next up was DCS World. I tested both 1.5 and 2.0, both of which gave me a great deal of issues. Trying to get this game to run stable in VR was a challenge. It would frequently drop back to desktop or get random frame rate drops from 60 frames per second to 5 or less frames per second for no apparent reason. I know my system's capable of running this game just fine outside of VR, and I have solid frame rates in all the other games I have tried with the Vive. All that being said, when the game did run stable, it was fantastic. The feeling you get when sitting in the cockpit of a powerful jet on the runway and opening up the afterburners is simply awesome. Doing low-level maneuvers in between mountains and valleys while you are engaged in combat situations gives you a pretty good adrenaline rush. On many occasions you find yourself just staring at stuff, as I did at the end of this clip here after getting the guns kill. Such a shame that the game's performance wasn't consistent, as I would have loved to have spent more time in it. So, on to the conclusion then. Unfortunately it's not all good. I have 3 gripes with the Vive. The first, and probably the biggest, is that I felt that the screen was lacking resolution due to the magnification, as I said earlier. This is probably the biggest drawback. So much so that given the option I would choose to play Elite Dangerous on my monitor using Track IR over the Vive, as they provide a much higher definition. The second issue I had with it was comfort. After wearing the Vive for about an hour to an hour and a half, you really start to feel it, and you start to want to take it off your head and have a break. For me it was mostly the bridge of my nose and just below my eyes, or the top of my cheeks, that seemed to bear the brunt of it. It's possible this could be remedied by adjusting the straps on the headset, but I tried a few different things and I was still not able to play for longer than 90 minutes. The third and final thing that bugged me was the edges of my field of vision appeared to be slightly blurred. I believe this was due to the lenses. Again, I tried to remedy it by adjusting the straps and the distance between the lenses, but this appeared to have no effect. However, to be fair, this blurriness was barely noticeable when in games. It's not all bad by any means. I think the Vive is an impressive piece of tech. The latency between your movement and what happens on the screen is non-existent, and the sense of scale and depth that you get is simply breathtaking. I even got the missus to have a play, and she is not a gamer by any means, and she thoroughly enjoyed the experience. For me, and everyone that I introduced it to had heaps of fun. As for the nausea thing that you may have heard about, only one of my buddies experienced a little nausea when playing Elite Dangerous, but it was only that game and he was fine with all the other titles. One thing is for certain, I will be keeping a very close eye on the next generation of VR headsets to hit the market, as I think the kinks I mentioned earlier can and will be ironed out. So that's it. Before I end the video, I just want to give a special shout out to one of my subscribers for lending me the Vive and making it possible for me to do this video. Groxon, you're a champ. Nice one, dude. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it both interesting and informative. As always, thanks for watching, leave a like if you do, subscribe to see more, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cryo, out.